Committee meeting to order. Tonight's March 8th, 2023. And I must first read, please note that tonight's meeting is recorded and broadcast on Channel 18 and in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. I must inquire whether anyone is taping this meeting and to please make their presence known. Anybody taping? Okay, we know who's taping. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from February 8th. Jake?
Wasn't here though.
You can move.
Okay, sure. I make a motion to approve the minutes from February 8th.
Great. Been moved. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Great. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Minutes are approved. Thank you very much.
Do we have to go down and name everybody?
No, because we're live.
Oh,
We don't have to do
live.
that.
Oh, my word.
At least I don't think so.
No, we're not live. This is recorded and then posted.
Oh, so maybe you should. Okay, so we'll start with Al. We'll,
Al Serpenine.
Tricia Farina.
Bill Cherubon.
Jake Angelo.
Paul Cusack, Town Council Liaison.
Stuart Rapp.
DJ Crook.
Great. Start with you right there.
Tim Hamill.
No, I'm just kidding.
It was quiet.
Oh, hi, Scott.
All right, so I don't have any comments to make at this moment, but I'm going to move to Amy.
Hi. Hello. Amy Carter, Shellfish Constable. Should have obviously tried to secure a larger room, but I thank you all for showing up this evening. So in my monthly updates, we have here, because we transitioned to shellfish permits are now going to expire January 15th of every year. And as a result, when we emailed everyone to renew their permits, they got a little bit of what is a seeming discount, but really was just prorated for the fact that they had already paid for a couple of months that they were then not going to get money back on, which resulted in an influx of people purchasing their permits. So comparisons of last year to this year just really don't make that much sense. So instead, what I'm doing every month until we get to a full year of this being how we do things, this is what we had for revenue in terms of our recreational shellfish permits as of when they went on sale to February 8th. And this now is how many we have sold as of last Friday before Alicia went on vacation. So you can see people still, because oyster season goes past March 1st, very invested in renewing those permits. I imagine once we hit April, there will be a stiff drop off until we get the seasonal crowd. And then come September, October, people will start buying permits again that didn't get them all year ahead of oyster season. Does anyone have any questions about these fancy numbers? All right, hearing none, I will move on. April 1st brings with it some growing area closures. Recreational area at Scudder Lane shuts down April 1st. You can see all of our new maps now have the updated closed to commercial zone, which is significantly smaller than it was in the past. We have also our blow up of what that looks like at Scudder Lane. And then Shoestring Bay closes also effective April 1st. And so it has been open from here down to there. And as of April 1st, will close. A couple of notes on things that I don't have slides for. We shut down the harvest of oysters recreationally at Scudder Lane effective today. And legitimately nobody went out on the morning tide, which was pretty crazy. I don't think in all of my years as a natural resource officer I've ever been out on a recreational tide and not checked a single person. But the handful of people that went out on the morning tide went to Bay Street and I wasn't stationed there. So that will change the dynamic of parking there for a little while until people start showing up for the spring season. I sit on the Shellfish Advisory Panel with the state. We had a meeting last week. I don't remember what day. It was 3 hours long. And I brought forth the grassy knoll issue to all of those who are growers in Barnstable Harbor that have ever conducted transactions in the grass. You know what I'm referencing. Last year, before we were audited by FDA during their VP peer reviews, it was brought to my attention that we were out of compliance with DPH and DMF regulations because technically the product is landed and then driven a whopping 1,200 feet down the road to the marina to conduct these transactions in an area that's not chaotic and spilling out with humans and novice boaters and all of those sorts of things. I had been working through July to try to get this addressed, was told that I wasn't going to have a solution for the season, so it would be revisited. It was not revisited in what I would consider to be a timely fashion, and was told that the best way to get the conversation revisited was to essentially put DMF and DPH on blast in a public forum, recorded forum, at the Shellfish Advisory Panel meeting, which I did. And so the next day, I had a Teams with Eric Hickey from DPH, who has promised me that there is a pathway forward and a favorable pathway. And he's drafting something for their legal department to review, which will mean that, it'll be like the day before, the day of Vibrio season starting before we have a response and an answer. But we are moving forward in what seems like we should be able to continue conducting these transactions that we had been for 6 years without any issue. Centerville River relays are going to take place this year. I've submitted our application to Division of Marine Fisheries last Friday, so I don't know when I'll hear back from Matt Camisa, but we only do in-town relays right now, so it's out of the Centerville River and then into East Bay. So more information to come on that, but they can start as early as May 1st and run through June 15th. So Shellfish propagation staff will be sending out more information about dates for people who want to do the relays as we get permitted for them and it gets closer. So that's kind of all. Oh yeah, and because this is also herring involved. Water temperatures in a lot of our ponds are around 44 degrees. And so, once we hit 48, they'll start kind of running, or at least we'll start seeing them. We have gotten the Centerville River run that goes into Lake Waquaket, Marsh's Mills River into Middle Pond, Bradley Pond into Lake Elizabeth, and about a third of the Santuit River done. Still need to finish Santuit River and Boat Cove Creek that goes into Mill Pond in West Barnstable. We will be restocking Mill Creek again with Division of Marine Fisheries with herring. Wayne Miller, who lives on the pond, swears he saw a fry. So maybe it's working, maybe it's not, I don't know. But we will be doing one more year of restocking there. And herring counter training is actually taking place this evening for all of those count programs that are run through Barnstable Clean Water Coalition that we used to run and that they thankfully took over for us. So that is what I have. If anyone has any questions, please let me know.
Okay.
Is the reason there weren't any people at Scudder because there's no oysters left?
Oh yeah, so we had a mild winter, and in mild winters we see people continue to shellfish throughout the entire time. Because of the parking issues at Bay Street, people were flocking to Scudder because they knew they wouldn't get issued citations. And they have largely harvested most of what was legal out there, started getting into the remote set that we have that's only a year old, and we're like, it's time to shut it down. So Bay Street and whatever we have left over at Bridge Street will remain open through the end of March. Last day to recreationally harvest oysters is Wednesday, March 29th, I believe it is. And then we'll be done for another season.
Any other questions for Amy? I have a question. Where did the herring come from that you're going to put in you're going to stock with?
Oh, so we have a donor population over in Monument Beach, the herring motel. It's that population there. It's same sort of geographic location. So that's where we get our donor fish from.
Another question. The in-town relay, from where to where do you expect?
It's from within the Centerville River and then relayed into East Bay.
Okay.
And then so, it's there for plenty long enough to open safely when East Bay reopens in December.
Perfect, thank you. No other questions for Amy?
I don't.
Great, good job, thank you. I'm gonna move over to, that's it for your report, right? You done?
I'm done.
All right.
That's all I got.
We have a renewal.
Yeah, John's here.
John's here.
Just got here.
Awesome. What do we got here? So it's a renewal for Jonathan Martin for 10 years? You've had it for 5? You Jonathan Martin?
Yeah, I'm Jonathan Moore, yeah.
Okay, great. Tell us what your plans are, please.
Pretty much the same as what we're doing, you know, we're just growing oysters, we just started growing clams out there, so, a few years ago, so we're just harvesting them now. Just oysters and clams, pretty much, some rack and bag and then some kind of, trays. Pretty much standard for out there, yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Town have any issues with Mr. Martin?
No, not at all.
Good. Committee have any questions for Mr. Martin? Public have any questions for Mr. Martin? Okey-doke. You know that we don't approve whether it happens, it goes back to the town manager
Sure.
for that approval process, you know that. It's just a recommendation or not a recommendation from us.
Okay,
So,
got it.
Bill,
We move to accept the recommendation.
or make a recommendation?
Make a
May I?
recommendation.
Great. Been moved, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Great, discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, which is to recommend approval of Mr. Martin's renewal of site NG 015 in Barnstable, signify by saying aye.
Alright.
Aye. Any opposed? Great, congratulations, Mr. Martin. I see Arlene Wilson is here, please introduce yourself, Arlene.
Sure. My name is Arlene Wilson. I own A.M. Wilson Associates, which is a wetlands consulting and engineering firm. And we're here tonight to represent Angela Hahn, who is the proud owner of 150 Bay Street. I think probably the last undeveloped lot on the water side of that street.
It's actually Road, Bay Street.
Bay Road.
Yeah, most people
yeah.
associate with Osterville. This is the Katuitt up in
I do that all the time, I'm sorry. So this is, I hope, one of the least controversial piers I've had in a couple of years. Although it is a permanent, a pile-supported pier, it is a dinghy dock. There's very little water over there, as most of you are aware, but because the sediment is the kind of step in it and sink up to your chin, soft anoxic mud, you can't do a 4x4 pier over there. It won't support the walkway, so you can't get posts long enough. So, like almost every pier in that reach, it will be pile supported, has a ramp and float that will come out seasonally. There are kayak racks. Conservation Commission will put a restriction on it that says no motors. We've done a shellfish study out there. Pam Newbert did the shellfish study for us. She found not a single quahog. There are some ribbed mussels in the edge of the salt marsh. Those won't be disturbed by anything that's being built. And I'd be happy to answer questions.
Okay, committee, have any questions for Ms. Wilson? How long is the pier with the ramp and float in place?
It's 50 feet out from mean low water and 83 feet overall from the bottom of the bank.
Is there a house currently on this property?
They're, I think, just about to get their building permit. The house has been authorized by the Conservation Commission. We can't build the pier until the house is up. but it takes so long to get the Chapter 91 licenses that we generally try and start figuring it'll be a year or 15 months at least before they have the permits in hand.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Wilson? Public, have any questions for Ms. Wilson? No? Okay. What's the position with this committee relative to this project? Wish to weigh in at all? Did the town do a survey?
Not yet, because this was supposed to go to the commission.
The 28th, I
It's-
think, the
yeah, it's-
last Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, because when Liz went out to do it, it wasn't staked, so they had to ask for a continuance.
Gotcha, okay. And you said when your biologist went or your shellfish survey person went, they found no quahogs?
Nothing.
Just found nothing?
No,
It's
well,
way-
no
way
quahogs,
up in
no,
Shoestring
there were
Bay
no
is a prohibited
soft shells in there.
Oh, it's in a prohibited area?
Of Shoestring Bay, so it's like it's all the muck.
How far is it from the bridge?
It's like kind of close to, I guess Rushing Marsh would be like the closest intersection.
Okay. So we don't care about that, I guess.
We've done,
Isn't that next to the fifth hole, fourth hole,
Of what?
yeah?
No, this is Katuah.
Oh, this could do it.
Across the way
I'm in
is
the wrong
Willow Bend.
town.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, pretty non-controversial.
a
It's a
little
treat.
different for me.
Thank you very much, Arlene.
Thank you.
I'll move on to the second one, Lori Seidman. Is she here? Anybody on her behalf? You said nobody's gonna be here, you don't think?
No, I wouldn't think so. They didn't even have to do a shellfish survey.
Conservation was yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Because all of the proposed work, it's peer repair and maintenance plan, and everything's gonna be done, I believe from the upland.
is that the last house on?
Oh, no, wait, this is, outside and it's like almost into Nantucket Sound, basically, it's
Right.
on Ocean View Avenue, so, the project itself is actually outside of like mapped shellfish habitat for the town in like beyond the high water line.
Yeah.
So it's not anything that could be surveyed,
It's almost next to the Loop Beach, right?
pretty much, yeah.
Anybody have any questions about that? Committee, public? Okay, I'm gonna move on. Status of the repair of Scudder Lane.
It's a thing still.
It's a thing.
I have no.
How's it going?
Well, there's no meeting scheduled yet, and it's like almost spring, so I imagine at some point in time, DPW will have to do a follow-up, but I have nothing on that
Okay.
so far. It's all mostly, like meeting with them constantly to make sure they're not getting too much, siltation in the herring run off of Finney's Lane, and, discussing whether or not we're going to beach rake when we have plovers, so, nothing on Scudder yet.
Okay. So I guess we'll move on to a hot topic, which would be corporate leasing of aquaculture licenses originally brought to the committee by Al Supranov. Everybody take a peek at what was sent out by Amy. Some, right here, proposed regulation changes.
So this is, I'm assuming for most people that are here, this was the link that I provided to the website that has, the proposed shellfish regulation changes and then how the town currently, addresses those situations within our existing regs if we, even do, cause we, yeah.
Okay, so
That's my background
just
on
a
it.
rough guess, how many people here are aquaculturists? Okay. Wild fishermen? Got one, two. I don't mean personality, I mean. So we've got about 3 wild fishermen, okay.
There's probably people on the wait list as well here.
Oh, how many people on the wait list? 1, 2, well, 3. Okey-doke. All right, so why are you here? Wanna talk about it? Okay, where would you like to start? It's a hot potato. I'm thinking that a committee to discuss this, as opposed to something that is a regular meeting, might be a good idea. What the makeup of that committee looks like, I have no idea. Whatever comes out of that meeting has to then be brought back to this committee. It's a subcommittee is what I was thinking. And that subcommittee would then make its findings, come back to this committee would vote on it and decide whether to send it to the town council for them to consider. To my left is our representative on the town council. And before any of this can happen, obviously it's a pretty serious regulations change. And the town attorney is gonna get involved if they haven't already gotten involved. Is there
Yeah, just
anything-
an update on that. Yeah, so,
Introduce yourself.
yep, Paul Cusack, town councilor, liaison to this committee. Live over in Osterville and have worked in this industry in the past. And so as liaison, I have made contact with all of the actual town council leadership, the president, vice president, and then the actual professional staff, the town manager, our town attorney, the former, the town councilor who was as the liaison in this position in the past. They are all fully informed about this 5-point plan that's been proposed and are eager to hear the eventual expression of what this committee would like to pursue. And so folks are very eager to hear that. They are informed up to the point that we're sitting here right now, but have not weighed in any sort of way.
Awesome. Questions for Mr. Cusack? No? Okay,
Well, I'd like to hear from people that are here. I mean,
what would you like to
I'm
hear?
I'm not as enthusiastic about a subcommittee because everybody that's here is in the aquaculture business or wants to be in the aquaculture business, and I don't see why we just can't discuss it and come to a conclusion.
Well, we could certainly discuss it.
I have a couple questions.
Sure, your name?
Tim Hamill from Barnstable Village. Just going to touch on number one real quick. I'm just curious how would the business be entered onto the list, or it would just strictly be upon approval through whoever those means are throughout the town? Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't understand the question.
Yeah.
So it says subject to the approval of the town. So I guess throughout. So it's just voting to get into. Is that how I'm reading that? There's no bid. There's no like a public bid, like the stormwater treatment out front. There's not going to be any bid for rights for the corporate use, I guess.
Oh, so let me just throw my 2 cents. I think what the intent of this is, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the intent is to replace the person with an entity.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be that they would bid for it, they'd just be, instead of you being the person who is trying to get on the list, however you get on the list,
Yeah.
it's your company.
So they would still have to enter the list. No list.
Well,
I guess I'm missing the point of how.
why no list?
Well, I don't know. She's shaking her head.
Well,
no, so I'm curious how.
I think what this suggestion is that, say, for Al, for Dave Ryan, for Cheryl Ryan, for Nathan Ryan, for Virginia Howick, for potentially Kevin Flaherty, to take all of that acreage that each individual holds, transfer their license to Cape Cod Oyster, and then have all of those licenses held by that entity. So there is it completely skips over any list
There is no list.
and is a
so-
transfer of like license name
So
essentially.
that's where the raising of the acreage and all that comes to. It sounds like a monopoly. I mean, I'll just say it.
So then those licenses, so those forms that are now,
Wait a minute, say,
they are no longer.
who is that?
So, sorry, Rob Delaney from Square Creek. So those licenses will never be able to be freed up and given to anyone else. So they will be consumed by that corporation.
rotation.
And never be able to be released.
Why would it be never?
Because the company owns that, so that company's not going anywhere. So Cape Cod Oyster will own that license forever,
Or until they give it up.
which they never will.
But they could.
But they could,
Yeah.
but do you think they will? They won't.
I don't know.
They
I would
won't.
speculate.
They
Why-
won't.
Why, generally speaking, why wouldn't we have a list? We have more people who want grants or licenses, as we call them, than we have grants available. So why wouldn't we have a waiting list? Whether he's correct and the corporation chooses not to relinquish a license, that's to be seen if it happens. But I don't know why we'd eliminate the list.
Right, so what happens right now is though, those companies who take those farms, that the license or the lottery or the wait list that we have now will never go anywhere. So whoever's on the list right now will never have a farm. Because that company, the companies that take that, then it comes in that corporation and they will not relinquish that ever.
Well, if you're on the list right now, there are 7 or 8 people on that list that have refused to take a site.
They should be off the
So
list.
what,
Come on down.
should they still be on the list?
They should still be on the, well, if they relinquish it, they should be off the list, but I'm saying that
Well, they're not.
But you're taking out farms that they will never become available.
Well, that's not true.
It's
I mean, it's just like
absorption,
any other.
rotation.
If a company takes that, they will never relinquish that.
Why do you say that?
Do you think that a large corporation will
A
ever,
large corporation?
or whoever wants to take those farms, do you think they're ever gonna give them up?
No, because you're in, it's the same situation you have now. So if somebody has a farm, they have 10 acres, 5 acres, 20 acres, whatever. They can sell the farm to, if you wanna buy it, you can buy it.
But do you think that's ever gonna happen?
The way right now
Of
is,
course it will happen.
Okay, so, hold on, this gentleman's been raising his hand. What's your name?
Corey Hendricks. I'm a wild fisherman, and also I have an aquaculture farm, and also a tribal member. And this, I mean, I understand from a business aspect why you want this, but one question to Amy is how many acres are in the north side of Barnstable, like together?
Yeah.
It's like 30 some odd acres.
All right. Let me find my math for you, friends.
I think.
Okay.
Oh, 50.
So I can tell you that within the entire town, there are 156 point something acres. 155.58 acres.
That's total.
Across the entire town.
And some of those grants are already grandfathered to certain companies.
The ones on the south side that were established prior to formal aquaculture regulations, yes, were exempt from the 2 acres on either side rule. And so that's how like Katuitt Oyster has the real estate that they do, and that's how Cape Cod Oyster has the real estate that they do. That's also the period of time in which those few licenses were issued to corporations and not to individuals. And so I think just to answer the question about the list first, it's similar to the mooring list. If you pay to be on the list, you're offered a mooring. That mooring may not be in the area that you want it, of any specific bay suitable to the type of boat that you have. And so for that reason, similar to an aquaculture site, if it's not the site that comes available, that is of your interest for what you're planning on farming, then you have right to refuse and to stay on that list. And that's consistent with how mooring wait lists are handled. I don't see, with the proliferation of conditionally approved areas, a lot of room for growth of additional aquaculture sites within the town of Barnstable. I think we're probably maxed out. There's maybe a little bit of room in the existing aquaculture zone in Barnstable Harbor for a few sites, but then it becomes a discussion of the fact that Barnstable Harbor is an ACEC. A lot of that space that's open gets razor clam sets and is used for horseshoe crab spawning, and while the state may not consider that of value. We potentially do. And that depending on where they go with this the special review procedure pilot, subject to full MEPA review. And I'm not really in favor of taking space out of an area of critical environmental concern for like monopolization of a fragile environment. So I think at this point where we're at in this discussion, the acreage that we have in this town is what we have. And it's really whether or not people want to take that public domain and
I just want a general, so, because basically my point is, I could see if you're a family and you're established and it's your son and your wife and, you know, maybe upping it to like 4 acres or 6 acres for like a family thing, but I think by changing it into a corporate entity, anyone who has money could just buy a house here, live here for a year, do deals. Like I was saying, yeah, there's the back deals, but at the end of the day, you have to be a town resident. And, you know, if you keep that limit way less than 14, it still gives young people on the list, people who have been on the list for 20 years, an opportunity to get a farm. I mean, just like myself, I just got a farm. I was worked with Lynn Krause's husband for years and years and years, and you know, his son didn't want anything, and he ended up wanting to pass it down to me. So by giving one of those companies 14 acres, I feel bad for the guys who maybe worked for them, who are on the list, that are hoping that maybe they get thrown 2 acres one day so they can, you know, do their own thing and still be involved. It's not like these bigger companies can't come buy oysters off me. I've sold the Cape Cod oyster, you know, so I think by giving the bigger entities the ability to get 14 acres is crazy, but I am a family man. I see like establishing like you know, historic Barnstable families that are shellfishing. They've been there, you guys have been out there for 30, 40 years. I get wanting to pass that down, but it should be someone who lives in this town. It shouldn't, when you get into the business entities and everything, it's just a way to consolidate the fleet and sell it all off to the highest bidder. And someone like me, I mean, even my father who's not here, I had to strip wire to sell copper, went out with my kayak to help him to start, and now my mom and dad have a full-time job on the oyster farm, so you can't take the opportunity away from other people who may get those farms and say, oh, well, we're a big company, we know what we're doing, you know, these small farmers aren't good, they're not good for business. No, competition is good for business. Having a monopoly, even if the monopoly on, say if all these 14 acres and there's only 5 companies, but all the 5 companies are making money and they're getting seed from the same person, and that one hatchery gets a disease. Now everyone's screwed. So, I mean, I see if you have a family thing going on, passing it on, maybe up in it, you know, even myself, I have 2 acres. Maybe, I mean, I could see myself, I ran the tribes grant, I had 12.6 acres. I could do more acres. So I could see, you know, if you had a few acres, one's in your wife's name, one's in your name, you want to give it to your kid or something. Reasonable to, but all this other stuff, it's gonna just, the people who already have pockets who already go, and I think one of the people who used to be on the list is my high school history teacher. He got the grant and then someone else works it for him. Okay, that's fine, that goes on, but at least he's a high school history teacher at Barnstable High School. You know, versus some guy who moved here 2 years ago from Virginia, who's got money, who's got like some shellfish operation down there, and you know, I just think it leaves too much room for a corporate entity that's not invested in the town of Barnstable to get control of those flats, which is a natural resources, which is everyone has a right to that in this town. So that's basically how I feel about it.
Thank you.
I agree with you, man.
Anybody else?
I'm gonna swing back to the question about, so it's town property. So my question is how is a corporation going to be able to profit from town-owned land that every single one of us pay for? And what would be the benefit? There would be, and again, we're gonna go back to the bids. If you're profiting off of town land, shouldn't it be up can I just start coming in and, I'm sorry, coming in and acquiring things even though I'm not on the list already, even though if I'm a corporation? So it's just very convoluted turf that you're dealing with as well. I don't know how you can, again, use the M word, monopolize it and push people around. To his point, it's just not, it's not good. I know that much.
Okay, anybody else?
I don't understand what you mean push people around. Who's gonna push anybody around?
You're taking all look at Amazon. They acquire thousands of companies. This is a very big scale. I'm not comparing you to the giant. But nobody relinquishes, nobody ever gives it up. Nobody's going to do that. So you're taking all this stuff and putting it into one person's basket. It's not fair. Again, I'm on the list. I wait. But it's not fair for him to come scoop everything up right off the top as soon as people become available, as things become available.
Are you talking about me?
You're Cape Cod Oyster, right? Yeah.
So, if you read this, it says, I think I forget which number it is, number 5, okay? Any one entity may not be licensed greater than 14 acres, okay? Now, there's a reason we picked 14 acres.
Okay.
Guess what? We have 14 acres. So, we can't have any more property. It's not about us as much as it is about anybody that's in this room.
But it
that
could
has
be
a
for the
family.
next guy.
Well,
It could
but-
be for the next guy, because you
Well,
have
the next-
14,
the next
that's
guy-
great.
The next guy might want 14 acres, I don't know.
But
Maybe
that
he
just
want 2 acres.
eliminated 4 or 5 more people up the lane.
Well,
of
listen, the
grants.
town of Barnstable had 14 acres ready to go, and they didn't put it out for you guys, okay? So, there's 14 acres right there. That should be in the available,
Okay.
but it's not.
So potentially what you're saying is there's 14 acres on the south side that could be
On the
made.
north side,
On the north side,
on the north side.
that could be made available.
Yeah, it was available. Well, it was
Proposed to be available.
proposed to be available, but never was available. But the point I'm making is, the situation is already the way it is in Barnstable. We have 14 acres.
That's great.
Yeah.
But the next guy might not have 14 acres, and they can acquire.
Well,
I mean,
the next guy might have.
Why is 14
6
all you
acres.
can have, Al? You said 14 is all you can have. Why is that all you can have? Why can't you have
Well,
16?
because I'm trying to address,
I'm just trying
I
to
think you
understand.
brought it up, and what he's talking about.
But you
In other
said-
words, I'm not trying to get any more acreage.
Why not?
Why not? Because I don't need any more,
But why is 14 the magic number?
because we have 14.
It's because you have 14.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you
Amy, you had.
if you're not
what do you
joking,
think?
it sounds ridiculous when you say it.
Amy, did you
Why?
have your hand
Are
up?
you joking?
I did.
What makes it ridiculous?
Well, why not 10?
What I'm
I like 10,
saying
it's a
is
round
we-
number,
we
and you
don't-
give up 4.
We don't
and then everyone can have 10.
want any more acreage.
But everyone can have 10,
Gentlemen,
you just give up 4.
Gentlemen, we're in a committee. We can't hear if everybody's trying to talk. Amy, DJ, and then Pat. And then
Yeah, I
Cora.
just wanted to run through some numbers. So this is, your suggestion was that any corporation cannot hold more than 40 acres total. And that within Barnstable Harbor Aquaculture Zone specifically only 14. And in the last meeting, you stated that that would put you in compliance with what you currently hold. But what you currently hold between you, Cape Cod Oyster, David Ryan, and his associated family members is 29.99 acres. So it would leave you open for an additional 10 acres, potentially somewhere if you were to acquire them on the south side, I suppose. And if you also include the licenses held by Kevin, it increases to 33 acres. So really, it would leave you still room for growth. I just want to make sure the math is clear. That's all.
Change the math.
DJ, and then Pat, and then Cora.
You can't take away the name on the grants. The initial issue was a paperwork issue, and then also of what happens to the grant if tragedy happens. That was the initial issue, and now it's become about owning the grants. I'm all for grouping grants, I guess for paperwork purposes. But other than that, you do not take the name out of the grant. This does not work. And then it just, I mean, I'm for change, but this isn't it. You know, are there other ways to do it? Yeah, but I mean, a subcommittee needs to be made so something presentable can actually be put in front of us. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Pat and then Corey.
Yeah, we need something concrete that you would want to move forward to and take before the town. And you don't have that right now, so a subcommittee does make sense. These particular items here are what the subcommittee needs to sit down and work out. And then they bring it back to you so that you can all agree that, yeah, this is the way we see forward for right now, for us. So that, you know, but this, I don't wanna use the word.
Sorry about that. Give me your phone
Can't
out.
take you anywhere.
You can get after class.
You've got Cape Cod Oyster, they have worked hard to build their business, it is a family business. That is the American way, as far as I see it, that's how we do it. Enterprise. And everybody in this room, my hat's off to you because you're all doing an enterprise. Whether you've got X number or one, you're all doing an enterprise, and I think it's a really tough job. But they worked hard, they've been there doing it, so of course they're a group. You can do the same thing, because licenses or grants are going to come open. You can work to find yourself in a position where, you know what, I got somebody in my family, I'm gonna ask them to get to apply for this grant, and I'll have 2 grants. And 10, 7, 8, I don't know how many years later, you might get another one.
This is very hypothetical, but
No, but it
I'm
isn't.
happy
It isn't. It isn't, because this is the American dream, that you build your business up.
If it's the American dream, you spread the business.
Right.
You don't hoard the business. You spread
No, you've got that, you build your business, you don't.
I agree with that.
You
I
don't
agree with that.
spread it, you build it up, you know.
So
It isn't, what I'm hearing is that you are coveting his acreage.
I think you're actually
That's-
putting words in my mouth.
That's what
I
I'm
have
hearing,
no
no, I'm
problem.
not putting words in your mouth, I'm saying
I
that's
actually
what
think
I'm
you should
hearing.
be charged something to dredge out. Oysters are not good, in my opinion. They're not. These eastern oysters, the sediment. If you want to talk koi, what do? They take out nitrogen from the water. Is that the?
That is not the point.
Well, you can't just. You're accusing me of many things.
No,
and
I am
asking.
not accusing you of anything, I
I'm
am
gonna
telling you
stop
what
talking.
my
and
reaction to what you have said is.
I don't cover
Alright.
anybody in this room.
Okay, you don't cover.
It's not covering, it's keeping them from getting.
What do you think? What is your position, Patricia?
I don't have a position. I wanna talk to everybody here at one time or another and understand them, get to meet them. Bill and I have been talking about this. We wanna meet everybody, spend over a cup of coffee individually and listen to what your story is, why you're there, what your dreams are, what you see, what the issues are, whatever you can tell us. So that we become we'll buy it. We'll become more educated as to what really, and we come from different backgrounds. So we take what we know and we try to help solve the issue. That's where we stand.
Corey?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess another way to look at it, instead of just being like, well, Cape Cod, alright, so if Al's just getting the 14 they already ran, for me, it's no matter who it is, if you divided all the acreage by 14 acres and everyone enterprised and use business, like you're saying, to acquire 14 each, that would break it down to like only a few families or few companies. So that's, I see why they want to keep it, but my thing is, what if, I mean, even myself, what if I hit the Mega Millions and I start buying everyone out and I had 14? You know, like as someone who was on the list, who knows people on the list, who knows kids who were on the list, who didn't know they had to pay the $5, now they're kicked off the list. It's just a lot of acreage. You know, I understand maybe Cape Cod Oyster, they've done their thing. We wanna appreciate them for the business they've built, but you can't take the opportunity away from everyone else because one business is doing better. Just because they enterprise better, you can't do that in regular business. Like, that's just lobbying the system so your enterprise can be better than someone else's or bigger than someone else's. And yeah, I could go and get my family. I have my family members on the list, and there are a few people down on the list. Now, if he acquires those 10 that we're gonna open up, guess what? The people I have on the list aren't gonna get that grant. So I mean, speaking from a real blunt, like if you give 14 acres to Cape Cod, and then the next bigger company like does their deals, and they get 14 acres in the end, and the next week it's just gonna break it down to only a few entities. So is that what we really want, I guess, as a town, to just have a few entities? You know, survival of the fittest, whoever's biggest now gets to be the biggest oyster farmers in Barnstable forever? Or are we still gonna give people the opportunity to have an aquaculture farm? And I think maybe there's not that many people here to represent, or maybe they don't have the experience, or maybe they do have the experience and they're getting older, but those people still have a stake in this. And by giving one entity, whether it's me, whether it's Cape Cod Oyster, you are taking that opportunity away from other people. Whether it's another farm or it's another person on the list.
Thank you. Please tell us your name.
Matt Bunnell. So how is that different than what's already happening out there right now? Let's say you did have.
Okay, so
hold on. So let's say that you got the funding to go and acquire 14 acres.
Yeah.
That you could do that right now without this.
Not all in one name though.
Right?
You just need multiple names.
You just need multiple names.
You need multiple names.
So what's
but when
holding
one
you
of those
back
people
is-
dies, you have to pass it to somebody.
Yeah.
If you don't, boom, now someone gets a grant. That's where I'm coming from.
So
It's
That's the
inheritable by a
difference.
family member.
so right, but if
Yeah.
you had
And if the family member doesn't take it, then it comes up on the list. Now, if you have 14 acres in a company that has millions of dollars, when that grant comes up, they can still keep that farm, versus if it's in the individual names, you as a business entity have to take up your time to make sure that all those people that you have all those names on are staying on your team. And that's the way it goes. It's
That's
a
the way
lot
it is
different if now all
It's a
those
rotational
acres
lease.
that are in this one are yours, and you can just take all 14 and give it to the next person and the next person. There's a lot more money at stake, and to me, if you do this, there's no chance for those to be broken down again into 2-acre squares and given it to one of these guys over here.
why would that happen? Nothing's really changing. I mean,
And it gives,
Alright,
Right.
I
I have-
five names versus one. It's a number. There's 5 names or there's 1 name.
Correct.
Or that's a company. How is that the same? Explain that to me. How is that the same that if it's in whatever your company's name, that is the same as it's being in your name, your wife's name, and your son's name? Or in this
there's
one's
no
name?
difference if it's all in one name. You're right. No, it is. No. I mean, it is. Yeah. When it's in,
It's different
right, yeah.
in the way it's passed down, is what I'm saying.
Right.
It doesn't, if, like I said, you combine them all, and then when that company, goes down, everything got broken up or something, but it's just, obviously, trust me, I would love to have 14 acres, but it just gives no opportunity for another grant to come up if
Well, you
all
just
the
said,
dominant
you
companies.
just said you'd love to have 14 acres.
I would, but
Now, wait a minute, you'd love to have 14 acres.
If you had more
Well,
kids,
the way it is today, you can't.
Exactly. You have more kids. That's the whole strategy.
no, that's why
We're just
I
gonna
said
put 'em in, yeah.
like I said, a three-generational
We,
grant.
whoa, we don't even need to have corporate grants. Everyone put them in 2 acre people's names, 2 acres, keep it the way it is. Boom, done.
That's why I
Same
suggested
thing.
maybe
Everything's
bump it
the
up
same.
a little bit. So if it's you had one in your wife's, your name, and your kid's name, and your kid had a baby, you can give all 6 acres to them. What's wrong with that?
DJ, go ahead.
Well, then what happens when
Al?
you have,
And now if your
Hold on,
grandson
hold
messes
on,
that
hold on.
up, then the grants go up.
We need other people to weigh in on this. DJ, would you please, and then.
So, I met with Amy after it was first brought up a while ago, and I was brainstorming about it, and it's such a complicated topic, cause how do you make this possible where it's fair for everybody? I mean, at the end of the day, if you really wanted to make it corporate, let's do owner-operator licenses. I mean, then we'll really be talking. What I had suggested is that each individual grant name is to that person. However, there's a subcategory that you can add. Doesn't mean anything other than it's under a business. So as far as permitting, as far as paperwork, alright, all these oysters, no matter where it's harvested within this acre, that acre, can go under that one business as a subcategory, say, alright? I also thought, alright, what if we up the limit to 4 acres on the north side per person? That's one way to clean up a lot of the stuff. It allows small businesses to expand. You don't have to look for, you don't have to try to reproduce to get another grant. I'm at 2 acres right now, I'm maxed out, I could use another grant. But also, I don't want, yeah, it's biased for me to say, oh, yeah, I want my corporation to take over the town lease I have, but like you're saying, it can't get passed down if if the business is the only thing on that license. So, there were a number of other things I brought up, but you can't take the name out of the grant. That's just not. But there's ways to work around it, I think.
So, thanks CJ. So, the biggest concern is very blatantly the consolidation of these farms and never dissolving. And so, my original thought was like kind of what DJ's saying. It doesn't make sense that there's all these. Someone has 5 grants in a business in their family's name to do 5 different groups of paperwork. Let's consolidate that into a business. Now, hypothetically, your son or something is working on that business. We can extend it to, I'm not sure the criteria. Somebody is involved in that business for a very long time. They care very much about that business. And they live in the town of Barnstable. Somehow, there could be a way that they could maybe get that business. But it can't be sold to just someone random. It can't just be grouped together to the highest bidder. And if that ever comes up, you can, transfer your license to other people. So if you have them consolidated and you don't have heir, whatever that requirement may be, then they have to be subdivided out of the corporate group. Does that make sense at all, what I'm trying to say?
Kind of.
So it kind of protects the
Anybody else?
business, but...
Anybody else? Amy?
So I hadn't initially planned it because I wasn't sure how many people were going to be in attendance this evening, but I do really appreciate the diversity of aquaculturists we have present here this evening. Definitely runs from small scale operations to larger scale operations, and all of you are successful in the farms that you operate. Based on the discussion that DJ and I had over a 2.5 hour period. We had a staff meeting to discuss things, what the subcommittee from 2013-14 had brought forth. the changes that were sort of the middle ground that was accomplished at that time. And if an additional subcommittee were to be created to look at these sort of like intricate issues in more detail, some things that my department would be comfortable with discussing are the following. Allow for the name of a business, LLC, etc., and the person's position within that business or LLC to be added to the aquaculture license issued to the individual. Mark Begley just had a renewal hearing, and on his license, moving forward, instead of just saying Mark Begley and his address, it will now say Mark Begley, comma, manager, comma, Beach Point, Shellfish, LLC. So that way you have the business on the license, which for like tax purposes, reporting purposes, all of those types of paperwork things that we have no involvement with could make things easier for you. Engage in discussion around increasing the maximum acreage issued to any individual on the north side from 2 to 4 acres, with a maximum of 6 acres being issued to any one individual. Engage in discussion around experience and or education requirements. This is from a concern that Tyler Hagenstein had, and a number of other people with novices coming into the fishery off of the wait list, and potentially sullying the reputation that Barnstable shellfish has. An example of this, in the Orleans regulation, applicant is required to have a minimum of 1 year prior experience working in the aquaculture field, or must complete the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension Shellfish Farming course or equivalent as approved by the Shellfish Constable within 2 years of issuance of the license. After 3, we want to see production anyway, and we'll at that point know whether or not you know what you're doing. But, and as all of you know, there's quite a bit of oversight from us anyhow. So if anyone's doing anything wrong, egregiously wrong, that would put public health at risk, we will know about it. Address untimely death situations. An example from Nantucket regulation: any license issued under the provisions of MGL Chapter 130, Section 57 shall, upon the death of the sole licensee, continue in full force and effect, subject to the same terms, conditions, and regulations imposed by the original license for the balance of the unexpired term, which would, either be under like a 5-year or 10-year if it were a renewal, depending on where you were at in that lease term, or for 1 year, whichever is longer. This is for the use and benefit of the immediate family of the deceased licensee. For purposes of this section, the term immediate family shall mean spouse, son, daughter, mother, father, brother, and sister of deceased licensee. That would allow us to provide a pathway to inheritability in situations where family members don't currently meet our 12-month domicile requirement. If you want to keep the family farm fishing and farming, then it provides an opportunity for someone to come in and become an established resident and part of that business. Annual fee. Currently, the aquaculture industry, and this was based on a cost of service study done in 2018, so obviously that has changed, has gone up, pays forward less than 3% of the cost of service given to the industry. While home rule petition would be needed to change the annual fee like by state statute, which town management and DMF are not in favor of. We went this route before. An administrative fee or other fee could be suggested to bridge that monetary cost of service gap. I don't know that it's $250 per acre. It could be like a sliding scale based on like your business and how many sites you hold. That currently is something that the aquaculture specialist and management are exploring in more detail. And changes to annual reports. We plan on removing the notary requirement because it's unnecessary and burdensome to basically everybody. We acknowledge that a different way of reporting could be better for those growers who operate more than one site, and have reached out to DMF to see how they have their annual reports submitted, and are going to sort of craft something for people, say like the Bunnells, who operate 4 sites, but it's all under their one sort of umbrella, to not have to submit necessarily 4 different pieces of paper, but to still show that our minimum production standards are being met. So those are items that my department feels would be more beneficial to the industry as a whole, and to the community of Barnstable as a whole. And that's what I have to offer at this moment
Cool.
for your digestion.
What do you see the makeup of the committee, if it were to be made up?
I think that as opposed to the previous subcommittee, which had Rich Haskell and a number of large growers on it, that it should be comprised of town staff, small growers, large growers, people on the wait list. All of the stakeholders should be present,
Yeah.
and that there should be, oversight by like a completely unbiased, doesn't have an opinion or stake in any of it person.
Okay. Thank you. You have your hand up? Yes?
Yep, I'm John Martin. I go oysters and things in Barnstable. And I don't really have a problem with the intent, I guess, of what is here. And I'm wondering, I guess I'll throw this out kind of to the room. And like people that opposed it, obviously, Corey or Robert, I'm not sure of this guy's name. But is there like a half step? Can we meet somewhere in the middle where maybe it does benefit, like maybe you're scared of the 14 acres or something for someone on the list, but that doesn't do anything for somebody that, like myself, I have 2 acres, my wife has 2 acres, so there's 4 acres there. Is there a middle ground that maybe we could meet upon where it benefits me as well as someone that's waiting on the list? I certainly don't have the 14 acres or anything, but are you opposed to everything about this? Are you just opposed to the size of the numbers that they put here? Yeah.
I think there should be an increase because there's so many families that have like 2 or 3 grants.
Right.
And like I said, if you want to pass that on, and you guys have been doing it your whole life, people get older. I agree with that. I think 14 acres, going from 2 to 14 is a huge jump. And it just gives everyone with the big pockets the opportunity versus it being more about passing it on to a family. Or
It's not so much the intent of this that's bothering or that you're having a hard time with. It's the scope of what's written here.
What do you mean intent?
Well, I think this is to kind of simplify, like, for paperwork and for people that have in their family more than 1 grant.
See, I see it as trying to be a cash out situation.
How so?
Why is there 11 acres behind?
Because the way that it's being talked about being the same and brush under the rug that it's going to consolidate multiple farms and really ignoring the part of what happens when that person moves on.
Okay.
What happens when somebody has 14? What do you think happens when someone has 14 acres on their business entity? What do you think happens to it after that? Are they going to break it up? Or are they going to look for somebody that buys 14 acres?
I mean,
What happens when the person who owns the
I know, but
business
what do you
dies?
think,
Does
John?
the
What do
business
you
still
think
have
would
a
happen?
license?
Yeah, no.
You'd sell 14 acres, right?
Of course.
Yeah,
What I'm saying is, Maybe we could meet somewhere in the middle.
Of course, yeah.
Where it benefits someone, like.
Yeah,
people
Corey
operating
and
on the list.
DJ both said 4
Yeah.
acres, maybe increase the limit to 4 acres per
Yeah.
person. That way you and your wife could have it in one name, and if you wanted to expand further, then your wife could have 4 acres, and then you'd have 8. That's just
That's like kind of what the stuff.
yeah, and that's pretty halfway to me,
Yeah. I would agree
right?
with that, yeah.
Again, I get the premise. Again, if this was used to just encompass the current lands, you probably would have proposed 30 acres, give or take. Again, I don't know everybody's story, what everybody has. I mean, if 2 people decided to make corporations, that's 50% of the acreage locked up, possibly just by two entities. And again, the whole acquiring, it gives them the potential to acquire and a lower probability for others to acquire. The scales are extremely weighted, I guess, with what's here. It's aggressive, I guess, maybe a little bit, but.
Would you be interested in sitting on the committee? Would you be interested in sitting on a committee?
I'm not opposed to it.
And you're on the wait list?
I'm on the wait list and I'm a commercial digger.
Stuart, this is for the existing farms. This isn't an issue with the wait list, in my opinion. Scott Mullen, I'm a farmer.
Repeat that, it's an issue for existing.
I believe this is a current farmer issue and something that working with the division to try and streamline permitting or whatever the avenues, but I think bringing other groups in is gonna.
What other groups?
Wait list is what was said.
I think it's a farmer and DNR issue.
But then
That's my opinion.
The whole issue is about the non-farmer wanting to get in on the farming.
I think if a non-farmer really wants to get into this business, they're gonna really work hard at getting into this business.
Yeah, but if everybody owns 14 acre, if they're all giant corporations,
I won't argue minutia, but my opinion is, if you're on the list,
you got onto this when they were handed out.
they weren't handed out.
They weren't?
I had my truck keyed, friends' rocks thrown through their windshields. We earned it.
I won't consider that.
Excuse me, Al and I have been in the oyster business.
Please state your name.
Robin Serpinot.
Thank you.
I'm the lucky Mrs. Serpinot. We've been in the oyster business for 40 years. And starting from a couple of seed in the backyard. We've been through the ups and the downs like everybody else in here has. Our employees are our family. And we would like to be able to give them a future where they can participate in what they've grown with us. And that's a big issue for Al and I. And by not being able to have one business for them to partake in, they end up with nothing. I mean, we're getting older, so what's gonna happen to them? They've worked their tails off. As you said, this is a hard business.
Thank you. Anybody else? No, huh?
Paul?
I would like to, if you're gonna have a
What do
subcommittee,
you got? What are you thinking? What's Paul thinking? He's a smart guy.
Processing.
Yeah.
Take
Al,
it
go
all
ahead. Unless you wanna say something, go ahead, Al. Oh, you do? What's your name?
My name's Paul Hamblin. I'm growing in Barnstable. I've been growing in Barnstable my whole life with my family and I. We've worked for 25 years, my whole life, as somebody that can work. Probably from age 13 on, I've been working. We've been through ups and downs, and over the years, we've been able to acquire a handful of grants. We got 8 or 9 acres altogether. And I think what this is just us trying to not only protect what we've grown and protect what we've created, but also streamline our reporting and all our numbers. It's very confusing. I mean, it's a task at the end of the year to try to break all that up. You gotta try to figure out what shellfish came from what grant. We got a lot of stuff going on during the year. We don't keep track of that, very specifically. And I agree with Scott Mullen that this is really a farmer and DMF issue that the existing farms, I think, are the ones that are at stake here and need to be protected of what we've grown.
So why don't you go as a farmer directly to DMF?
I mean, I've spoken to DMF before. I mean, it's been a topic of conversation. Like, so I work with my stepfather and my mother, and we have grants all together, and we have separate businesses. I have mine, they have theirs, and they're getting older, they're getting smaller, they want to retire soon. So then what happens if they want to move to Florida, and now the business that I've helped create with them, what happens to that?
They transfer it to somebody else who has a year's
Which
worth of
I
experience.
can, that's been my plan, to transfer it to my wife, and if I have a kid, then transfer it to the kid, but that doesn't solve the issue of the paperwork. It doesn't, the way the paperwork's done right now just does not make sense.
So if it's truly a paperwork issue, then it's an issue, like you said, between you and DMF.
it's not truly a paperwork issue.
Well, I know it isn't, but that's what he said.
Well,
It's one of the things.
It's one of the things. There's multiple problems here. There's an array of issues.
Yeah. Transfer of ownership at death, I get that.
That's a main thing.
Yep.
So,
And just protecting the business itself. I mean, we've created a business, and it's there's not a lot to protect it with the town. There's
Yeah, but you're trying to protect it from me now. You keep saying
okay.
protect,
Let me
so it's
ask you
kinda
something.
like
Let me just ask you something.
yeah.
if you started from nothing and you got yourself 2 acres, and then down the road you got another 2 acres, and then 5 years down the road you're growing, you got another 2 acres. Wouldn't you want to protect that a little bit?
Name in the lease, man. It's the name of the game. Your name rolls.
Which is fine, we can keep doing that, I mean, there's no problem with that. The way I see it is it's just trying to simplify things.
But it's simplifying it for you. I mean, like, again, paperwork, okay, I get it. You have paperwork, streamline issue. That's good. But again, it's what's the benefit to me, I guess?
Explain what the benefit to me would be
Why do
to.
you benefit?
Why should you all benefit? And me and nothing.
That's off for 40 years.
Well, I don't, and I don't get the opportunity now? So I don't get the opportunity?
You were handing it down, right? And you were handing a lot of them down, right?
No,
You were- you
I've been there right side by side with them, doing
You
it.
guys bought them, or you didn't start? None of them were started. When
We
they
got them
actually-
transferred to us.
All of them.
No, not all of them.
Yeah. So like like a lot of these businesses that are new, did you get initial grant, or did you get all yours transferred to you?
If it wasn't for me, there wouldn't be a north side.
Exactly.
Okay?
So here we go.
There wouldn't
So-
be one.
So what
There
it
would,
comes down to,
nobody here would be on the list. Nobody would have a grant, period.
we're going through one generation of this. This is the first generation from the start of this to
No, what we're,
the
what
first
we're,
people are
what's
coming
happening,
out of it.
what's happening here is that the generation that made it all happen, okay, is getting to an age where they've accumulated this, and this, and now you're getting to the point where you're saying, well, geez, I'd like to do this or I'd like to do that, but I got this nice business and I want to keep the business and I want to keep it going. I want to keep my employees happy. I want to buy stuff from everybody in this room.
So like I
Which
don't
we
understand
do.
how why would you like knowing the rules, like why grow to that extent if you're not
Well, half of
comfortable
my- half of my
navigating?
grants
If you're already,
are on
like
a
Paul, you already
corporate
said like you would if this doesn't change, you already have a plan.
Half of my grants
Right.
are in
You
corporate.
have to, you have to. have
Exactly,
a
you have that. So everyone already has a plan.
No, you see, here's the crazy part about it. The town of Barnstable, they have 50, 60 acres of grants that are in corporate names.
Yeah, they're not even following their own rules.
I mean, come on.
I have a problem, Dave Icamy, reconciling, all the grants are in individuals' names. No one sells personal oysters. Every oyster that's sold is sold out of business, right?
Right. Good point.
Help me out with that one.
What do you mean?
I guess
I'm not buying Al oysters, I'm not buying Mark Begley oysters, I'm buying Beach Points, I'm buying Cape Cod oysters, right?
But that's,
I don't know.
again, your
You
name,
know?
that
You know,
name's not on the
you know,
list.
do you know the people that buy those oysters then you sell Beach Point oysters to a company and they're gonna rip that tag right off and write whatever they want in Beach Point oysters nobody except for an Instagram page.
Yeah, mine just goes
You know,
CC
it's all-
31.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they just name them whatever when they're sold.
So 7:15, I think we've heard a lot of people. Shelley, you want to second it?
Oh, no, I'm good.
So,
I think we should take this up another time, maybe.
so
Oh, Joe and Wojcik.
I'm
I'd
sorry,
like to make
I
a
called you
motion.
Shelley.
I'd like to make a motion.
I'm not done.
Okay.
The choices that we have are pretty simple. Keep it status quo. Try and change it by consensus. We could put it back on the agenda for the next meeting and go through this whole thing again, and it doesn't get us anywhere.
Can we just do a subcommittee or something?
Well, that's, again, that's why I am suggesting a subcommittee so that you can fight it out at that level, and come to some possible consensus at that level. They're not recorded. They're public though. They have to be public meetings. So, I don't think they'll have subpoena powers, but.
Can they be recorded if notice is given?
Probably,
Yeah.
sure. I don't know if the town would offer your types of services for a subcommittee?
You can always record by Zoom.
Oh, there you go.
We record almost 40 meetings a month, so it's hard to get to subcommittees.
Gotcha. And you don't wanna Zoom this, I don't think. I think in person is a better way to go. So, that's the reason why I threw it out at the beginning. I think it's still a valid point. It's just a matter of what that committee looks like. So, that's my thought. Al wanted to say something and then Pat.
I would like to make a motion that we have a subcommittee that is chaired by Derek Lawson that will report back to this committee at the next meeting with whatever they got.
Wait a minute, is there a second?
Guess we don't have to, we've got to have a.
By next meeting?
A question?
Uh,
A question?
It's either seconded or it's
Or
not, or it's not gonna move forward. Are you
I
offering?
second that they have a subcommittee, yes, I'll do that.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Yeah, go
Is
ahead.
it gonna be by next meeting?
I don't know.
Well, that's what Al said.
That's what the motion
Yeah,
says.
that's what the motion is.
I am okay, yeah, sure.
Any further discussion?
Well,
You wanna withdraw the motion?
no, I don't wanna withdraw it, I just,
Give yourself some more time.
I don't wanna give more time. I don't, this goes ad nauseum.
So we're still in the discussion. Been moved and seconded, we're in the discussion.
Okay.
Amy, you had your hand up about this,
Oh
right?
yeah, I just, a month for the Director of Marine Environmental Affairs Department as a whole to pull together a subcommittee and meet enough times to bring something that would then get vote at next month's meeting is asinine.
That's
okay.
mild. So what's the subcommittee look like? Does Derek Lawson just sit down and say, okay, I'm gonna pick these people?
Sure. Whatever.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion?
Would you like to pick it?
That's not,
It's not your position?
no. I'm happy to weigh in on it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna move to the public. Anybody wanna weigh in on the motion that's on the floor? Yes, name please.
Lynn Kraus. I don't think a month is nearly enough time for a subcommittee to meet, have discussions with people in the community like was discussed for the intent, and I think a subcommittee is a great idea. I think there's a lot of different issues and there's not that many aquaculturists here tonight, so I definitely like the idea of a subcommittee, but I think it needs more time.
Yeah. Anybody else wanna weigh in on it?
Who is the gentleman that he's referring to? I'm not
He's
familiar.
Amy, please tell us who he is.
Derek Lawson is the Director of Marine Environmental Affairs Department, so he oversees the Harbor Master Division and Natural Resources Division.
So, any further public discussion?
Oh, I'm not public.
I'll bring it back to the committee. I have a question. You've nominated Derek Lawson to serve as chairman of the subcommittee. How do we know he'd accept this role? Have you spoken to him about this?
The only reason I bring his name up is because the town manager, when I first brought this up, referred me to him.
Okay.
And I think that, I would prefer that he be, cause he's the head of the Natural Resource Department, let him, run the show.
Okay. Amy, do you know whether or not he'd be willing to manage a subcommittee like this?
I have no idea,
Yeah,
but I
okay.
can certainly ask him.
Can you text him right now?
No, because he has children.
FaceTime.
No.
Okay.
He's got a young kid. He's a busy man.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna bother him.
So
After
assuming
hours.
he will even take the role. Now, the next discussion is who's on the subcommittee? Does Derek choose the committee? And if that's the answer, I can't vote for it. Cause I don't think,
Well, who would you like to put on the committee?
people who have an interest in this. And I don't know if he's got the finger on the pulse of who has the interest in this discussion. I don't know. I've had one discussion with Derek Lawson in the last 5 years.
That's one more than
Yeah.
I've had.
I would think that you would want to do a cross-section of everybody who at least is out there, so that you at least have one person that collectively represents you on that subcommittee. You get the larger and the smaller, the individual ones, so I think that is one way you would look at it.
Large grower, small grower, wait list. I know that you say that it's not a wait list issue.
I don't think it's a wait list issue.
Well, maybe it isn't a wait list issue, but what's the harm in having more people weigh in on these issues? So who else? Large, small, wait list? Who else is there?
Town.
Wild growers?
Nobody.
They don't need to be on this, do they?
No.
And then town. So who from the town besides Derek Lawson? Or is that it?
I would think someone
You?
a little bit
Amy?
more familiar with the shellfish regulations probably would be beneficial.
You mean like Amy?
I'm not necessarily nominating myself, but
Second up.
I mean, I'm definitely invested in what the future of aquaculture looks like in this town and trying to narrow the focus so that it suits everyone. I know the last time that we went through this, it's kind of like nobody is going to be 100% happy, including us. And knowing that going into it can kind of help find a common ground more easily. I totally acknowledge that these aquaculture regulations were crafted when I was in middle school. I get it. It is not reflective of what the industry is today. I mentioned at the last meeting that I'm not 100% on board with the 5 bullet points as you presented them, but I do think that there is room for growth within our regulations to try to protect what people have grown while also protecting the sanctity of aquaculture as a whole in the community. So,
Well, Amy, the things that you said this evening, that you were in a kind of a subcommittee prior to the subcommittee?
it was internal discussion in my department.
Could I get a copy of that?
Yeah.
I
Now that
think
it's
everybody else
out
would
there
like
in the
to
public.
too.
Sure.
Yeah. Because it's quite extensive.
I mean, it's things that we recognize are not currently addressed in our existing regulations that could help ease the burden of paperwork to people who hold more than one site, could ease issues with untimely death situations, so a succession plan of sorts. Doesn't necessarily account for the type of acreage that you're suggesting, but does include modest acreage changes. I mean, yeah, those are all things that I'm definitely willing to discuss. And I'm happy to share those now that they're out here with anyone. I can do it the same way that I did notification for what you had put forward as topics for this subcommittee to address.
So I'm writing a list of who should be on that committee, and it looks like,
Why don't we have them email back Amy? In other words, she sends out the thing that you just went over.
to
right?
whom?
To, I don't know, to everybody she sent it to.
So we're still in the discussion on your motion, you know that, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to bring it back to the size of the committee. Sounds like you want a subcommittee.
I don't want a subcommittee, but I'm
Wait a minute.
proposing one.
Okay, so large grower, based on consensus, we'll put you on the subcommittee. Does that make sense to everybody?
Or Dave, yeah.
Sure.
Wait a minute,
Or Dave.
I wrote your name.
Okay.
Who else, large grower? Anybody in the room? Mr. Bunnell?
Sure.
How many people should be on the committee total? Two from each group? 3 from each? 4 from each? I'll hear a number.
3.
Three?
Yeah, number.
So, Mr. Bunnell, what's your first name?
Matt.
Matt Bunnell. Who's the other large grower?
Chris Gargiulo.
Wayne,
Too late.
There's
Chris
I mean,
Gargiulo? He's a large grower.
or Wayne.
Does he hold more acreage?
Yes, he holds the most acreage.
Who's a small grower?
There's a lot.
DJ Corey.
There's like 26 small farms.
I don't know if you should be on a subcommittee.
I mean, I'm not gonna be able to vote on it at
Period.
the end of it anyway, so might as well.
And you're
As long as there's not a quorum.
Yeah.
Any other small growers that we could
I
think
don't
of?
think
My,
anybody should
my
be on it.
dad might be interested on being on that, Paul Hendricks.
No, you Corey.
Well, I would too. I mean, it's 3,
How many acres do you control?
2.
You're small. What in your
My father
estimation,
has
what's
2,
a small
but
grower?
Also,
Two
Yeah,
or
4 or less. Yeah.
4 or less, okay.
Yeah, anywhere between 2 and 4.
But you can only have 2.
Issue to the individual.
So I need a third small grower.
Tyler.
How many acres?
2.
Yeah, so
Well, I don't know if it's
Not
he's
held by
another,
him.
Yeah.
another committee member.
Not a licensee.
So I'm looking around the
Yeah.
room.
Stuart, I don't think anybody from the committee should be on the subcommittee.
I don't disagree with that.
So put Dave Ryan on there instead of me.
You okay with that?
Sure.
Doesn't mean you can't go, doesn't mean you can't speak. Okay,
I'm cool with that.
so,
If DG's not on there, I don't want Dave on there though.
I mean, none of us can vote on it anyway, pretty much.
no, not pretty much.
Almost all.
In fact,
Only
you can't.
3.
1, 2, and 3, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ryan,
Scott Mullen, do you want to be on it?
I feel it's represented with a diverse group, I'm fine.
so I need small grower. So far, Corey's the only one.
I'll do it.
Who's he? Mr. Martin? And are you an oyster farmer?
Yeah.
Okay.
He just renewed his grant today.
Just the way he introduced
Yeah,
himself,
yeah.
that's all. Third one,
I'll do it.
and your name?
Rob Delaney.
Okay, wait list. Your name?
Tim Hamill.
First name, Mr. Eidney?
Dave.
Dave. We got a third one?
I don't think there's another person who's not on the committee on the wait list present this evening.
Say that again?
I'm not sure that there's another person on the wait list present this evening that doesn't sit on the committee.
Okay. Are we satisfied that we limit the wait list to 2?
I have a question, why can't that go out on an email for people on the wait list, so if they're not here?
Yeah,
And then we, next
right.
month,
Yeah.
make it happen, you know,
Make,
make that happen.
make this happen next month?
Yeah.
So that
Okay.
way it gives the public an opportunity to come
Okay.
join it.
So like a solicitation for a subcommittee to the aquaculture wait list
For one person,
for a person.
because we have Tim and we have Dave, we just need a third person. And Amy, you're on it.
Yes, yeah, no, I just, right, yeah. So in the interest of my initial suggestion to have someone who is kind of like non-biased, member of the general public at large, I have noticed that Richard Haskell is present with us this evening, who also sat on the 2013-2014 subcommittee, and perhaps would be beneficial to the discussions not only for where they're moving forward, but also for the historical perspective, having been there once before. In which you didn't show
Would
up,
you?
right?
Oh, awesome, thank you, Richard.
Time limit,
As much as time is needed.
time limit.
Well, as I stated in last month's meeting, if we can arrive on these common ground regulatory proposed changes written in as I normally present regulation changes that are proposed, they would be either voted on by the committee at a August or September meeting for a public hearing in either October or November. Changes would be effective January of next year.
No, too long. I mean, I get what you're saying from a regulatory standpoint. I'm talking about this subcommittee. This is not a forever subcommittee.
Well, it wouldn't be a forever subcommittee because it's already March and August is like 4 months from now, so.
So the final decision out of the subcommittee comes in for the August meeting of
Well,
this?
because we don't even have a subcommittee yet. So next month, in April, you establish your subcommittee. You then meet in what, like May, June, July? I think that's 3 months is enough time to have people from the public, stakeholders, the subcommittee to, you know, bang heads like we do at these types of meetings, only in a separate meeting, until we arrive at something on paper that's presentable as a proposed regulatory change.
And then it comes back to us at our August meeting, and we vote on it at the August meeting.
Yep.
Does that
that's up
timeline
to
work
you.
with the town of Barnstable?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Okay. Paul's
Yeah.
shaking his head. Okay. We'd have it created, but for the fact that we need that third person. And there's no other stakeholders that you think are necessary.
No, I think that's a diverse group of people to
Yeah.
discuss the issues at hand, and where these meetings will have to be following open meeting law, and where agendas, minutes, everything will have to be posted ahead of time. It will give people who want the opportunity to participate in the discussion to participate in the discussion.
And let's hope that Derek will accept the role.
Absolutely.
Is there an alternative?
Well, now that we understand that it's gonna have to be posted and minutes and the whole bit, it would be good to have a town employee.
So like if Derek said no, could it just be Amy, or would we have to have another person be the chair?
Oh, I wouldn't chair. No,
okay.
I don't chair things.
Yes, I answered
No.
that.
So I'm gonna, Al, I think I'm gonna ask you to withdraw your motion.
Happily.
So here's the plan. Next meeting, we come back, we'll know whether Derek has agreed to chair the subcommittee. We'll know the third person on the wait list. We'll bring that, we'll vote on it, we'll create the subcommittee at the next meeting. The parameter will be, it comes back to us to vote on in August. I will suggest that we, next meeting, have the bullet points to send to the subcommittee. We're not gonna just say, hey, subcommittee, you've been formed and you do whatever you want. No, here is what we want you to decide. So between now and next meeting, let's come up with the bullet points for the subcommittee, okay?
Yeah, well, okay, with one caveat. If the subcommittee doesn't come up with a proposal by August, we vote on this.
That's pretty serious.
Yeah, that's very serious.
So you bring that up to the next meeting,
Okay,
fair enough?
or somebody, yeah.
Okay. May I close this discussion?
I might just, Dr. Haskell, not to put you on the spot, but you obviously have some experience in this space historically over the last 10 years, and didn't know if you thought any of this particular conversation about the creation of a subcommittee, one that you've served on in the past, would lead us towards resolution of this in an efficient manner.
Yeah, I just learned about this about 2 o'clock this afternoon. So I'm just kinda taking it all in, but yeah, the last committee, it worked, but it took a while. We had a few meetings. You need a little time to grind the stuff out. But we came together, when we came back to the committee, that was a long time ago, my memory isn't like it used to be. But I'm willing to give it a go.
Thank you very much. Amy?
I would offer, and he's gonna hate that I'm doing this, but I would offer Natural Resource Officer Christopher Nappy as a potential chair, should Derek not be willing to or able to fill the role.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone in this room would disagree with that nomination.
Who?
Except for potentially Chris.
Chris Nappy. He's a NRO, right?
Yep.
Okay? Made some headway?
Not really, but.
We heard that, Al. Oh, hold on, we're not done.
Sorry,
Mr. Crook.
hate to do this to you guys, but I talked to our harbor master. I know for the small guys that are trying to figure out ways to avoid the boat ramps and the hell that's down at Blish during the summer. I talked to him. There's only one open mooring field in Barnstable Harbor, and there's a 21-foot limit. I tell you what, if you looking for one, commercial guys over 21 feet, go apply.
Under 21?
Over,
Over?
go apply.
Where's that?
Right off Millway Beach.
Put in the intertidal zone?
Huh?
Is it intertidal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then also he's like, you know, you guys should start using the fish lift. Impossible. Thing sucks.
It's installed wrong. It doesn't
No,
swing
you need a
over.
hydraulics license to operate it. Not
Even if you did, it doesn't even swing over to the
Yeah.
to the road. It gets parallel with the bolt.
so. If anyone wants to start trying to upgrade that thing, I mean, it's, you know, for the aquaculture guys, it is hard to load shellfish onto these box trucks the way it is right now. I'm for something that's a little bit better than what we have down there, but just a couple options that I'm trying to figure out for us. So,
Good job.
done.
Thank you.
Then if that happens though, would that encompass the grassy knoll for like if say
No, it's a legal spot.
it's a legal spot? Oh, okay,
I'm
yeah,
working on getting the grassy knoll to be legally acceptable.
yeah. No, I know. Well, I was actually concerned that it wasn't legal, but now that you mention it, it is legal.
Yeah, that's the point of landing.
Yeah.
Al, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting of March 8th.
Thank you. Been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.